Have you ever felt like there's a fire inside you that never goes out? No, it's not a metaphor. It's real, and if you learn to ignite it, you can transform your energy, your health, and even your mind. The ancients called it Agni, and today science confirms it. Everything you are depends on the way this fire burns. Varanasi, 2019. I met her at dawn when the fog of the Ganges still enveloped the Ghats like a veil of mystery. For 3 years I had been wandering the forgotten temples of northern India in search of lost texts, when a sadhu with abysmal eyes told me of a place that no one dared to visit anymore, a ruined sanctuary on the edge of the city, where he said an ancient fire still breathed among the stones. I entered at first light. The silence had the density of a living presence, and golden dust danced in the rays of light filtering through the cracks in the ceiling. On the central altar, covered by centuries of neglect, I found a sandalwood casket. Inside, wrapped in saffron-colored silk, lay a manuscript. The first lines took my breath away. I write not for those who seek knowledge, but for those who remember, because the fire that keeps humanity alive is not learned, it is reawakened. The author introduced himself as a Vaidya, an Ayurvedic doctor who lived over 4 centuries ago, the guardian of a wisdom passed down from the dawn of Vedic times, the secret of the 3 sacred fires that dwell within human beings. When these fires, he argued, are extinguished, not only does the body become ill, but the soul itself is extinguished. Page after page, the text revealed what modern medicine has forgotten, that we are temples of living fire, that digestion is a sacred act, and every breath rekindles an inner flame. He spoke of toxins that science is just beginning to understand, of biological rhythms that contemporary research is rediscovering, of knowledge that the West believed to be archaic until it needed it. It is no ordinary book, but a key written in the words of its author to reawaken the dormant fire within us. He left it like an ember beneath the ashes, ready to be rekindled. Once lit, he warned, no one can extinguish it. Thus begins the lost manuscript of Ayurveda. Fire, the first chapter teaches, never dies, it simply forgets how to burn. If this video sparks something in you, leave a hype below. It's the best way to let YouTube know that this flame needs to reach as many people as possible. And for me, it's a sign that the fire is really spreading. I was 20 when I learned the secret of fire. My master was dying. I found him sitting before the ashram's sacred flame, his frail body wrapped in a woolen blanket. The flames reflected in his dark eyes as he slowly chewed a piece of fresh ginger. I remained silent beside him, awaiting his final words. "Do you see this fire?" he said. "It's been burning for 30 years, and we've never let it go out. Every morning someone feeds it, protects it from the wind, honors it. Without care, it would go out in a few hours." He paused for a long moment, the crackling of wood filling the silence. "The same fire burns within you," he continued. "It's called Agni, and most men have let it die without realizing it." That night, I understood that we are not just flesh and blood, but dwellings of a living flame. Every cell, every thought, every heartbeat exists because an invisible light sustains it. The ancient artists knew this, and in the Vedas they wrote that without this fire the body is inert matter destined for the earth. My teacher died 3 days later, but his lesson became my life. Agni, poetry incarnate, is a real, concrete, measurable force. It is the digestive fire that transforms laughter into blood, water into thought, experience into memory. Without a vigorous fire, you can eat the purest foods and still starve, for it's not what you eat that matters, but what your fire can transform. Ancient texts, such as the Charaka Samhita, written over 2,000 years ago, describe 13 forms of Agni, 13 sacred flames that burn at different levels of our being, all subordinate to the main one, Yataragni, the fire of the stomach, the great transformer. When it burns strongly, it is called samagni. Digestion is clear, energy pure, the mind clear, the tongue rosy, breath fresh, and sleep deep. But when the fire weakens, it is called mandagni. Food rots in the stomach instead of transforming, generating ama, a dense, toxic, and viscous substance that clogs the vital channels. The tongue becomes coated, the mind grows dull, fatigue becomes chronic, and pain becomes causeless. It's not for lack of food that one suffers, but for lack of the fire to digest it. Today, after centuries, Western medicine is only just beginning to recognize what Ayurveda taught. A multitude of microorganisms, the so-called microbiota, live in our intestines, transforming nutrients into energy and chemical messengers for the mind. It's been discovered that 70% of the immune system resides in digestion, and that the gut, a true second brain, produces more serotonin than the brain itself. Chronic inflammation, what the ancients called ama, is now recognized as the root of nearly every disease: diabetes, depression, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and even cancer. Thus, science confirms what the sages whispered millennia ago: guard your inner fire, and you will guard your life. In the morning, before anything else, observe your tongue. If it is pink and clear, your Agni is strong. If it has a whitish or yellow coating, it is weakened. If it is red and dry, the fire is burning excessively. Language is the map of your inner fire, the first sign of its forgotten language. Now close your eyes and bring your attention to the center of your abdomen, just below your navel. Breathe deeply. Do you feel heat, emptiness, or heaviness? What you feel is your Agni speaking to you. It is the very voice of life burning within you. I remember the day my master took me to the Chidambaram temple, where the cosmic fire of Nataraja burns. It was monsoon season, and the rain fell in uninterrupted sheets across South India. We walked for hours through the storm to the heart of the sanctuary, where 3 flames burned on separate altars, a large one in the center, fed by the priests, and 2 smaller ones that drew life from it. See, the master whispered, how the central flame nourishes the other 2, so works the fire within you. There is not 1 flame, but 3, interdependent and sacred. If the central one goes out, the others die with it, but if it stays alive, it illuminates all existence. That night, as the chanting of mantras blended with the roar of the rain, he revealed to me a knowledge passed only by word of mouth: the 3 Agnis that sustain life. These are not metaphors, but rather an energetic hierarchy that regulates body, mind, and spirit. The first fire is Jatharagni, the flame of the stomach, which transforms matter into energy. Without it, food decays rather than nourishes. The second is Bhutagni, the fire of the 5 elements, which lives in the liver and digestive organs, and reorganizes what the first has disintegrated, translating it into the principles of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The third, the subtlest, is Datvagni, the fire of the 7 tissues, which builds the body cell by cell daily. These 3 flames are not independent, they form a chain of transformations. If the first fire falters, the others dim. When it burns steadfastly, the entire structure of being is renewed, from food to consciousness. The Vedas affirm that fire is the messenger between the worlds, that which transforms matter into spirit and the unconscious into awareness. Modern science has begun to decipher what the sages intuitively knew. Cells possess mitochondria that burn glucose to generate energy. We call them Datvagni. The liver performs hundreds of chemical reactions. In Ayurveda, it is Bhutagni, the elemental fire. Gastric acidity and digestive heat are manifestations of Jatharagni. Research confirms that metabolism is not a passive process but a continuous act of combustion. Lighting these fires means restoring life to its original rhythm. It all begins with the flame of the stomach. Strengthen it, and the others will ignite on their own. This is why Ayurveda places digestion at the center of every practice. The ancients were not simple, they were wise. When fire doesn't burn properly, what remains is poison. The ancients called the impure substance produced by incomplete digestion ama. It is a sticky, cold, and foul-smelling substance that accumulates in the tissues like mud in a stagnant river. Texts describe it as dead food rotting inside us, inside. The symptoms of ama are unmistakable: coated tongue, bad breath, a feeling of heaviness after meals, constant fatigue, migratory pain, a foggy mind, and dull skin. Ama doesn't arise overnight, but forms slowly whenever we eat without hunger, in a hurry, under the grip of anxiety, or by combining incompatible foods. It is the fruit of a life that has forgotten the rhythm of fire. Contemporary medicine refers to it by other names: low-grade chronic inflammation, intestinal dysbiosis, intestinal permeability. These phenomena lead to degenerative diseases, metabolic disorders, and depression. The ancients recognized the same origin, but expressed it with disarming simplicity. When Agni is weak, darkness accumulates. To dissolve ama, no complicated remedies are needed. Simply rekindle the fire, and the flame will consume the impurities. The remedy is purification: warm, light, simple meals, rich in spices that stimulate without being aggressive. The ancient infusion of cumin, coriander, and fennel seeds, a sacred triad called CCF, gently purifies, rekindling the fire and dissolving toxins. When the body is freed from ama, vitality returns like clear water that begins to flow again. Health is not achieved externally. It emerges when obstacles to the natural flow of life are removed. Eating then becomes a sacred act, an offering to the internal fire. Every meal, the ancients taught, is a ritual sacrifice. The body is the altar, the stomach the brazier, the food the oblation. Fire Agni transforms matter into energy, and that energy into consciousness. Ask not what you eat, my grandmother used to say, but how you honor what you eat. Ayurveda enshrines 8 golden rules for mindful eating. First, eat only when you're truly hungry, not out of habit or boredom. Second, eat during the hours when the sun is high, when the fire is strongest. Third, eat in silence and presence, since digestion begins in the mind. Fourth, chew thoroughly, so that saliva becomes the first digestive process. Fifth, fill your stomach only 2/3 full, leaving room for the breath of fire. Sixth, favor hot or warm foods, since the cold extinguishes the flame. Seventh, avoid incompatible combinations such as milk and acidic fruit or heated honey. Eighth, nourish yourself with gratitude, remembering that every bite is life becoming life. These are not simple habits, but natural laws of spiritual metabolism. Modern science confirms these principles. Chronobiology has shown that eating in harmony with the rhythm of the sun improves metabolism and reduces inflammation. Mindful eating aids digestion. Intermittent fasting allows the body to regenerate. Everything we rediscover today with sophisticated tools, the rishis knew through pure consciousness. Finding harmony with the sun means remembering that the body is not a machine, but a dance with the cosmos. The ancients called it dinakarya, the discipline of the day, the art of living in harmony with the rhythms of creation. Getting up before dawn, eating when the sun is at its zenith, resting as the sun sets. These simple actions restore the internal fire to its original rhythm. Each period of the day is dominated by an elemental principle. In the morning, Kapha, the force of water and earth, prevails. At midday, Pitta, heat and transformation. In the evening, Vata, the wind that prepares for rest. Eating and sleeping out of harmony with these rhythms is like rowing against the current. It wears you down and weakens you. The seasons, like the days, have a rhythm that modulates the intensity of the fire. In winter, when cold prevails outside, Agni becomes more vigorous to maintain internal heat. It is therefore a time for hearty foods, healthy fats, whole grains, and warm legumes. In summer, however, the external heat weakens the flame as the body directs blood toward the surface to disperse the heat. Then light foods, watery fruit, refreshing vegetables, lukewarm but never cold drinks are necessary. During the monsoon, the high humidity stifles the fire and promotes the formation of ama. During this period, the body requires support from warming spices such as ginger, black pepper, and mustard. In autumn, dominated by dry winds, the fire becomes unstable. One day it burns vigorously, the next it fades. Oily and nutritious foods, warm and enveloping, help maintain its balance. These cycles, which modern science calls chronobiology, were known to the sages who recognized an internal clock in every cell. Contemporary studies confirm that eating in harmony with the circadian rhythm improves metabolism and prevents heart disease and diabetes. The same amount of food eaten at different times produces opposite effects. Eating late is like asking a dead fire to burn. Impossible. Ayurveda has taught this for 3,000 years. This is why fasting is not deprivation, but respect for the natural rhythm. Allowing the body 12 or more hours of digestive rest allows the fire the space to purify itself and be reborn. Fasting, called langhana, is one of the most powerful medicines. It allows Agni to consume waste, repair tissue, and rejuvenate cells. There are different forms: complete fasting based on water, partial fasting based on liquids, gentle fasting based on fruit or light soups, and finally circadian fasting, which alternates meals and rest in a natural cycle. The important thing is to adapt it to your type of fire. What purifies one organism can weaken another. Those with a weak fire benefit from fasting because it stimulates it. Those with an irregular fire should avoid prolonged abstinence as it destabilizes it. Those with an excessive fire should fast moderately, avoiding burning themselves. This ancient wisdom is reflected today in research on autophagy, the cellular cleansing process that activates only in the absence of food, which won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2016. True fasting, however, concerns not only the body, but every form of consumption. Useless words, toxic images, superfluous information. Silence, simplicity, and solitude are also forms of purification. Those who know how to abstain from what overwhelms the mind and senses rekindle a clear fire that illuminates without burning. Spices are the keys to this fire. The ancients used them not to add flavor, but to modulate and purify. Ginger, fresh or dried, is the universal awakener. It stimulates the flame without attacking it. Its strength is gentle yet penetrating, a subtle catalyst that transforms inertia into vital heat. Chewing a slice of ginger with salt and lemon before meals was considered the fuse of the metabolism. Black pepper or maricha penetrates deeply and opens the absorption channels. It promotes the bioavailability of nutrients and makes each food more effective. Trikatu, a blend of dried ginger, black pepper, and long pepper, is the emergency remedy for a dead fire. A powerful impulse that reignites what's dormant. Cumin, coriander, and fennel, in their sacred combination, represent balance. One warms, the other purifies, the third harmonizes. Turmeric, known as Haridra, is the supreme purifier. It detoxifies the blood, invigorates the liver, and soothes inflammation. Asafoetida, a spice with a strong aroma, dissolves indigestible substances, making even the most stubborn legumes digestible. Each spice, the text said, is a note in the symphony of fire. Wisely dosed, it transforms food into medicine. A body well nourished with spices and proper rhythms not only digests food, but also emotions. Because the mind, like the stomach, possesses its own fire, mano agni, the psychic flame that transforms experiences into wisdom. When it burns clearly, difficulties become lessons, pain turns into strength, thoughts flow and dissolve. When it is weak, however, the mind stagnates, emotions fester, and mental ama arises. Anxiety, resentment, depression, obsession. An undigested thought can poison more than spoiled food. Stress, the product of constant agitation, is the greatest enemy of mental focus. The body, believing it is in danger, suspends digestion and focuses its energy elsewhere. The ancients understood this by observing the mind at rest. Modern science confirms it by studying the gut-brain axis, where 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut itself. To heal the fire of the mind, the texts prescribed silence. 10 minutes a day of total stillness is enough to reorder one's thoughts, sitting, breathing, observing without reacting. This is mental fasting, the pause that allows the fire to purify itself. Flame meditation, trataka, is its oldest practice, staring at a candle until the image remains in the mind, distinguishing the observer from the object. Breath discipline, or pranayama, is the breath that feeds the fire. Prana is the subtle oxygen of the soul. Without it, no flame can survive. Breathing consciously means feeding the internal fire with the sap of life. The practice of Surya Badana or solar breathing awakens vital heat. Inhale through the right nostril, hold and exhale through the left. It is an act of kindling. The Kapalabhati, or breath of fire, exercise expels stagnant air and oxygenates the body. In just a few weeks, it transforms digestion and the mind. Science confirms it. Deep breathing stimulates the vagus nerve, regulates digestion, strengthens immunity, and reduces inflammation. Each conscious breath is an offering to your inner fire. When breath becomes presence, fire operates perfectly. This is why the ancients recommended taking 3 deep breaths before eating. It was a reminder to the body that it is safe, that it can burn without fear. The fire of the soul is the subtlest and most forgotten. The ancients called it Atma Agni, the flame of consciousness. It burns not in the stomach or in the tissues, but in the invisible heart of the being, where the mind is silent and presence is pure. It is the fire that transforms experience into knowledge, knowledge into wisdom, wisdom into compassion. When this flame is dimmed, man lives but does not feel, acts but does not understand, possesses but is not. Every human being is born with this divine spark, but few learn to nurture it. It is extinguished by fear, indifference, and remorse. It is nourished by truth, discipline, and gratitude. The texts teach that the soul does not become ill as long as the flame remains alive, and that no physical cure can last if the soul remains extinguished. Atma Agni is the source of all true healing. There are 3 pathological conditions of the inner fire. The first is excess, Tiksnagni, the excessively sharp fire that devours rather than transforms. It manifests as excessive hunger, irritability, acidity, inflammation, and anger. It is the flame that consumes itself. The second is deficiency, Mandagni, the almost extinguished ember which generates heaviness, drowsiness, accumulation, and apathy. The third, the most insidious, is irregularity, Visa Magni, the capricious fire that alternates heat and cold, energy and tiredness, lucidity and confusion. The first arises from pride and greed, the second from laziness and fear, the third from mental instability. To cure them, herbs alone aren't enough. A rebalancing of the soul is needed. The master taught that what agitates the heart also agitates the stomach. Every emotion is fuel or poison. Anger ignites. sadness extinguishes, restlessness fragments. Cultivating equanimity, therefore, means tending the fire. The remedy for Tixnagni is sweetness, refreshing foods, warm milk with cardamom, silence after sunset, self-forgiveness. For Mandagni, the remedy is movement, walking, breathing deeply, ingesting warm spices like ginger and cinnamon, living in the sunlight. For Visamagni, the remedy is regularity, meals and sleep at the same times, inner calm, daily meditation, a stable rhythm that restores confidence to the body. The fire of the soul, however, is fueled by beauty. The rishis taught that contemplating the pure, listening to harmonious music, reciting true words, and practicing selfless service are acts that strengthen it more than any prayer. When the soul burns clearly, the body heals itself as life returns to flow unimpeded. Contemporary science, along with other languages, recognizes the same principle. Coherence between mind, emotion, and action produces neuroendocrine balance, strengthens the immune system, regulates the heartbeat, and reduces inflammation. It is the echo of what the wise men had expressed poetically. He who lives in truth does not fear illness, because his fire is one with that of the sun. Everything, ultimately, is fire. Digestion, thought, love, speech, breath. When these fires come together, life becomes a single sacred combustion. Then food becomes prayer, breathing meditation, silence knowledge. Ayurveda is not an ancient medicine, but a science of memory. It reminds us that we are temporary flames in the infinite cosmic pyre. The night I finished transcribing the manuscript, the wind blew from the river and the lamp flickered. I read the last sentence, written in an almost evanescent hand. When the fire recognizes itself, it no longer fears going out. I closed the text, and in that moment I understood that this was not a book to be studied, but a life to be lived. Since then, every dawn begins with the same ritual: a glass of warm water, a deep breath, a moment of silence before a small flame, not as a mystical gesture, but as an act of remembrance, to remember that, as long as the flame burns, knowledge is not lost. Fire is not merely heat, it is burning consciousness, understanding light, transforming love. All medicine, all philosophy, all spirituality boils down to this: preserving the flame. When the body dies, the flame does not go out. It rejoins the great fire from which we came. It is the return to the origin, the supreme offering, the liberation. The ancients called it Agni Samskara, the rite of cremation. The body returned to the fire, the soul to the light. Nothing is lost, everything is transformed. Here then is the manuscript's ultimate meaning, to remind us that healing is not the absence of pain, but the presence of fire. A healthy body is not free from disease, but capable of burning away impurities and continually being reborn. As long as the flame burns, existence is sacred. Those who understand this no longer seek remedies, but harmony. They do not fear death because they know that death is but the passing of a flame. And so, as the Master taught, the true doctor does not cure, he lights. If this video has ignited something inside you, please like and hype it, not for me, but so it can reach those who need rekindling. Tell me in the comments, where do you feel your inner fire today? I want to read your words because that's where true community is born, and subscribe to the channel. New videos are coming, and believe me, the next one will raise your energy to a level you've never experienced. Keep your flame alive.